Okay, thank you. I think I got this figured out. I don't want to jinx things, but
Yeah.
I can put stuff on the screen and you can write
Okay,
stuff. Like that.
second hearing, Harris did send me a map, so maybe I'll forward that to you.
Oh, good.
So,
All right, good.
And I printed out some
oh,
also,
you did, oh, great.
Oh, good, good.
but screen with the.
Yep.
Um, What time is that, 6?
I have a question. Do you know where the map data resides for like the zoning maps, the zoning districts?
What about them?
Do you know where the data resides? I wanna see if I can get those shape files.
I can send them to you.
Okay, okay, good.
I will send you, the new map. So, because it shows the different, shoreland overlay district and how it impacted rural residential. And it's got the new Adamant Village compared to, rural residential within there. Yeah, I can send them to you. Okay, your email.
Yeah,
This
this
shape file to be okay,
shape files would be perfect.
and just the zoning districts?
Yeah, the overlays, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
shoreland's got three components. It's got the vegetative buffer around the applicable ponds. It's got the upland area, which is another 250 feet. Where limited development, except on the east side of Curtis Pond, it extends 800 feet. And the only way I can pull it off is to make that 800 foot a separate. So, so the shoreland overlay will be in 3 files.
yeah, okay,
The others are pretty straightforward.
yeah, okay, good, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Well, we have a quorum, so when it's 6, we can start.
Oh, sure.
I know Rachel's planning to come.
Good, good.
I'm here mostly to comment on the application before you guys settle in and
Okay.
start talking to them. I made a promise to the applicant that I didn't keep, but I think I can explain it to you guys and
Okay,
then I can leave.
okay. For the first or the second, for which, application, John?
Kodiak,
How do you pronounce Kodiak's last name?
beats me,
Okay.
beats me, I don't know.
Carefully, say it very carefully.
Yeah, Jerkovich, I guess, yeah.
For the awarding agenda,
Mhm.
I see the conditional, industrial conditional use, but are we finishing last month?
Well, we're not quite sure. I think that's why.
Yeah. And so, I'll tell you a chance of what happened with mine. But we go, yeah. No complaints. I mean, right now, I'm complaining, but in the future now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Moved around, so. Oh, wait, see this again. See.
I sent you an email. I'm sorry, I don't know. I have to tell you before.
We still have a phone, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
John. See you, John.
You guys were on here yesterday.
We were.
Hello, welcome. You wanna just sign in? Oh, have a seat, be great. So my clock says 6, so I thought we're here, we have a quorum, we'll start. So I'll review the agenda in a minute, but I thought maybe first we could just do a quick round of introductions so everyone knows who's here. My name is Willa Farrell and I'm the chair of the DRB. And why don't we just do a circle around the room?
I'm Rachel Seelig, I'm a member of the DRB, I live on Camp Road.
Toby Talbot, member of the DRB, I live on Robinson Cemetery Road.
My name is Harris Rowan, I'm on the DRB and I live on Wheeler Road, the county road.
I'm Jeff Barnes, I live on 216 East Hill, and I'm here for a meeting.
Kodiak Rukavich, and I'm on East Hill Road and Woodbury.
I'm John McCullough, zoning administrator, live on Robinson Cemetery Road.
I am Shannon Dubois, recording secretary, and I live on Foster Hill Road.
And I'm Scott Bassett, a member of the DRB.
Gabrielle Molina, I am a member of the DRB and I live over on the west side of town.
I didn't say where I live on Wheeler Road too. Important geographical identification. So the plan today was to quickly approve minutes and the rules of procedure. Unless there's any discussion, we'll table those items. Then we were going to continue the hearing from Mike Barnes on the East Hill Road property. And then we'll hear from Kodiak and his application on 6688 Route 14. So in the spirit of being expedient, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes of April 16th and May 21st? Maybe we could do those.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposition, the motion's carried. We also worked, just for context for the group, on revising our rules, the board's rules of procedure and our conflict of interest policy over probably a year, I guess, we've been working on that. So this is the more substantive adoption, but I think we're at a point of adopting these. So again, anybody would like to?
Motion to approve.
Rachel?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of approving the rules of procedure and conflict of interest policy?
Is there a date on the version that we're approving?
I'm 99% sure,
At the top of the page, I think.
it is. Okay.
Maybe we could refer to that in the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, my motion is as to what I believe is the most recent version, which is April 16, 2025. But if it's later, I mean that one, I mean the last version.
I'll verify the one that's on the website, but I'm not going to multitask. If it's something different, we'll. Okay, all those in favor of adopting the most recent version, which is posted on the town website, which I think is the 16th date.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's carried, thank you. So last time we met, we heard from Mike Spons on, over Zoom on his application, which is 2025-04. Move over. To deal with, a non-frontage, let me find the wording here. For the creation of a non-frontage lot as part of a two-lot minor subdivision. And we continue the hearing because we did not yet have a final copy of the survey. So at this point, I think I probably have to swear you back in. Sorry, Mike. So if you would raise your right hand and take the following oath. I hereby swear that the evidence I give
I swear that the evidence I give
in the cause under consideration
and the cause under consideration
shall be the whole truth
shall be the whole truth
and nothing but the truth
and nothing but the truth,
under the pains and penalties of perjury.
under the pains and penalties of perjury.
So at this point, Mike, would you explain your survey and the right of way and your discussions? Just fill in the board about what's
So
transpired.
I don't necessarily know what much has changed from last time. The map was pretty much accurate from what we had. There was just some discrepancy on like the exact point of entry, which on the new map that we emailed should be on there, but beyond that discussion, there's really been not much of a change. From my perspective.
I wonder, Scott, are you able to display on the screen the map? It's stated, the file name is 2025-04 Barnes map 6. I think .8.25, I can't see the full name right now. Yeah, so the June 8th. Some people, I think, have it up on their screen in a paper copy and everything. Yeah.
I'll just bring it up directly since you don't have anybody else on the Zoom.
Okay.
That's not it.
That's not it.
Good point.
Do you want me to forward it to you? Is that helpful?
See, it should.
I'd try that 618 file there.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
No, that's just, that's the whole.
Yeah.
That looks better.
There we go.
So Micah, would you orient us to, where your home is and the two lots and where the proposed right of way would be?
Yeah, so on the map there, the Fenslow piece that has the pond, it might be hard to tell far left, there you go.
Here.
Yeah, so that's where the pond and driveway of the house and those black specks at the top of that line or the bottom. There you go, that's the house
That's your house.
and the different outbuildings. All of that within the sectioned off piece, I think at lot A, it should be marked on lot 2, sorry.
So this is one.
That's lot 1.
Yeah, so lot 1 is where the house is, lot 2 will be where the subdivision would be, yes,
That area?
correct.
Okay.
And it's 34.82 acres.
Okay.
Of that.
And when you were here last time, it wasn't clear that you and Sam were in agreement where the actual right of way would be.
It was, yeah, how far it went, and so now that has been shrunk from the previous map or from the previous survey. So that has been made adjusted, and then an additional point is that there's right at the elbow of the two subdivisions, they extended just a little further past, or so that it wrapped to the other side. But Sam and I have both approved and done all that. This is Sam approved. So,
So the thing that says field, that's Sam's?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the right of way, just so I'm perfectly clear, is
Correct.
this.
Yes,
And it
that
will
was
cross his property into your lot, your proposed lot too.
correct.
Okay.
Which has already been where, I think that was even the same spot that it was before, that was the floating. Right of way section that just worked for whatever side, so he had chosen this path. Or the path, so.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember from last time, is it already like a driveway right of way, or it's just the path you're gonna be able to walk on?
It is a
Yeah.
good drivable path, there's just one spot that's like a little bit difficult to get through for some cars, but it is, I believe, like an actual. Ribbon two path, but I think it might count as just dirt road, but I can't, it. I don't use it enough, it's the utility path mostly to get to that back area, so I know that vehicles actively go on it.
So does Sam drive a blue truck?
Yes,
Okay.
Hopefully he just pulled in,
He may
we can
just
hear from
pulled
him
in.
too.
So
perfect.
maybe we'll, give him a chance. Other questions for Mike about this map or the proposed right of way?
Could you sign in?
Yes.
Right there, thanks.
Sorry, I'm a little late today.
Well, we just arrived at the point where we wanted to hear from you, so
Great.
you're good.
Okay.
And Sam, I'm gonna swear you in again.
Okay.
Gotta find my language here. If you would, repeat after me. I hereby swear that the evidence I give
I hereby swear that the evidence I give
in the cause under consideration
in the cause under consideration
shall be the whole truth
shall be the whole truth
and nothing but the truth
and nothing but the truth,
under the pains and penalties of perjury.
and the pains and penalties of perjury.
So Mike, we've shown this map, which I think you're familiar with,
Mhm,
and
yep.
we reviewed the different lots and this right of way.
Yep.
Do you want to speak about what your views on this?
Yeah, I mean, we came to this, we were together to come to this, so this is all, we're all good on our end. This, yeah, we're in agreement. This is the spot that makes the most sense for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got no issues with this
Okay.
moving forward.
And Rachel was asking earlier, is it pretty visible, like track, like you can see it?
The current farm road, it goes up to the kind of the bend and then it just kind of dissipates,
Mhm.
but there is a hedgerow right there that's indicated on the map.
Oh, yeah.
There's one little spot where you can see that there was a track kind of in that line. So yeah, it's, obvious.
Pretty apparent.
Yeah.
What do you use the field for?
Hay and pasture.
Yeah, so.
Any questions for either Sam or Mike? I think at this point, unless there are more questions, we would adjourn the hearing and then later the board would have its deliberations and then decide on, make a decision. We have often we do that right off, but we have another hearing this evening, so I think we'll figure out a way to do that, with as many people as we can. And, we have to make our decision within 45 days. I think it's safe to say we will do that. We have to write up a formal, decision. So it takes us a little while to get the wording all right. But, as soon as it's done, we would let you know, Mike. So,
Perfect.
any last minute thing we should do about this application from anybody? Okay, so we'll call this hearing, closed, I think is the term I should use. Finished, adjourned. Done. We're adjourned, here's the word I'm looking for, and then we will enter deliberative session at a later date, time. Maybe even this evening after our second hearing and issue a written decision within 45 days of today. Okay, Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So we have another hearing this evening, and I know that, John wanted to share some information with the board, I think, before we started the hearing, or do you want to do it as part early?
Yes, yes, do with the application.
Do with the application, okay, so, you wanna just explain that?
Yeah, I have to recuse myself from this one, I'm a lawyer and for lawyery reasons, I can't rule on it. So I'm gonna head out, so that I don't inadvertently influence the rest of you. And
And if we, have time when we do the deliberations on the previous hearing, we could always call you.
you can call me and I
You
can participate, I can probably get that,
Okay,
Yeah.
or just join on.
or just join on my phone or on
phone.
Zoom or something.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Rachel. Okay. So. Cody, we have this whole formal process of opening a hearing.
Are you driving the light?
What's that?
Are you driving the light Venza or Lower Venza?
I'm gonna scroll across, so I think it's good.
The what one?
Yeah.
It's just, I parked a little close to you, just be careful.
I'll be careful.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's it. So we have this, I'm gonna read a bunch of stuff. We have this formal process to go through and I'm switching between. I'm used to having monitors now at work. I'm spoiled, so I'm like having to switch back and forth. So this evening, the Callis Development Review Board will review an application submitted by Kodiak, and I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name.
Yurkevich.
Jerkavich? Jerkavich?
Simon J.
Yurkavich.
You're.
Yurkavich, excuse me. And write myself a note. So this is an application submitted by Kodiak Yurkavich for a property located on Route 14, and the actual number is, on my agenda. Sorry. 6688 Route 14. This is a proposal to build some self-storage units. And a copy of the application and additional information may be obtained at the Callis Town Office. So first, in my role as the chair, I review the order of events. I will remind everyone that we're gonna conduct our proceedings in an orderly manner and that copies of our rules are available. So the first thing is I'm gonna explain what I'm gonna do and then we'll do it. So what we do is we start by disclosing any conflicts of interest. I review the definition of interested persons. Then the applicant, in this case Kodiak, and anybody else who wants to testify will take an oath. We'll reference the zoning regulations we will use. The applicant will then present their application. It'll start with a summary and then provide any additional written information or that you want to share. The board can ask questions. We'll go through each section of the regulations. Anybody else from the public can ask questions. And then there's opportunity for comment. Then we either adjourn the hearing to a time certain, which is what we did last time, or close the proceedings by stating this is the final public hearing. So now I'm going to dive into this. So the first question is, do any members of the DRB have any conflicts of interest or ex parte communication they would like to make in regards to this application? So I want to share. I don't even know if this meets the criteria of an ex parte communication, but Harris and I live on the same road. We ran each other in the woods and Harris said, oh, I could do a map for this. I said, oh, that sounds good. And I took a breath like, And then I realized, oh, is this so I have no idea if that's an ex parte communication, but in the full transparency, I just want to say that we did have a discussion about a map that Harris has done and, which we can show, on the screen later. Any other conflicts? I mean, we had a conflict of interest in that, Rachel has left, but anything else? Okay.
What was the conflict with Rachel?
Well, it's to do with her role as a lawyer, so that we don't know the exact nature of it, but she's recusing herself. I think she defined it as a conflict of interest, but. So,
And she's on the board,
she's a member of the
does she
DRB.
typically recuse herself?
Well, this is the first time that I've been involved that she's recused herself, but I think it's to do with her professional role as an attorney, is my understanding, so. And I don't know where she works even, so. So now there is, I would normally at this point read the whole legal definition in the Vermont law about an interested person. But there's no one else here from the public, so I think it's safe that I can skip that unless anybody else does. Okay. But just so you know, Kodiak, if there is somebody here, only people who participated in this proceeding can appeal any decision that the board makes. So they would have to be here. Okay. So at this point, we ask the applicant and anybody else who intends to testify. I don't know, John, whether you fit into that definition or you're just
I'm not
providing.
really testifying.
Yeah, you're just providing, okay. So Kodiak, if you could raise your right hand and then repeat after me as you heard Sam do. So, I hereby swear that the evidence
I hereby swear that the evidence
I give in the cause under consideration
I give under the cause and the consideration
shall be the whole truth
shall be the whole truth
and nothing but the truth
and nothing but the truth,
under the pains
under the pain
and penalties of perjury.
penalties of perjury.
Thank you. Okay. So in reviewing the application, and this is on the agenda, I identified parts of the regulations which I think apply in this application. But I think maybe, is this a good point, John, to ask you to share your information?
Yeah.
Okay.
I made a promise to Kodiak and I didn't follow up, so I'm here to find myself. I meant to put an add onto the application that also includes a sign. The sign will be one permitted, per section, 311. Or possibly an exempt sign if you decide that it falls under home occupation, home industry, or home business. But as light industry, there's no signage for light industry that's exempt. So it'd be a permanent sign. I do not know how this figures into the way you guys are doing. If there was no conditional use request, I could handle the sign. But as part of the application. So I'm going to modify the original application to include that a sign is part of it. And as I said, it'll conform to section 3.11 and 16 square feet. There's some standards and stuff.
4x4.
Yeah, as long as it's not in the right of way of 14, and it's a certain size, can't be more than 25 feet high or something, I don't know, but I don't think these are issues.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's a compliant sign.
Okay. So just to summarize my understanding, the application that we're reviewing may not formally, like there's no actual indication in the documents of a sign, proposed sign, but we're being informed that the plan is to have a sign, and then Kodiak can speak to that.
Yes.
And we can consider it under section 3.11, 3.11, I guess I should call
Just to make sure that that's
Yeah.
a complete application, if
Yeah.
I understand it.
it. Okay, perfect.
That's it.
Any questions for John?
Thank you, John.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. But actually had identified 3.11. I think maybe because I was thinking there might possibly be a sign, given there often are signs for. Okay, let me go back. Procedures. Okay. So. Kodiak, did you see the list? Do you wanna come up and join us a little closer? Maybe it feels so, it's a formal process, but it's not that. So. Did you have a chance to see the list of, zoning parts of the regulations?
Yeah, John kind of clued me in on it
Okay.
beforehand.
Okay, okay, great.
I started looking into it, but
Okay. So the process would be if you would, if you would, basically, I think it would be helpful if you would start with a summary, just like give us, as if we knew nothing, a summary of what you're proposing. And then any information that wasn't included in your application that you want to add to it. And then, we will start going through the sections and then probably maybe ask you questions pertinent to each section. But I think it helps if you could start with, an overview of what you're planning to do.
do you have the sketch?
We do, so. See what.
This one,
Yeah,
Did you?
Is this the
is this the one?
Site One PDF?
Is that the
yeah,
one?
that's the. So it's just basically two storage units, 100 feet long, one's 10 by 100 and one's 20 by 100, alongside Route 14. I believe the setback's 65 feet from center dwelling. And, there's a driveway, parking area, and that's pretty much it. Good, I propose a hedge, if you think that's
Mhm.
should happen,
What does this whole thing say, lilac hedge?
I'll give it, just a cedar hedge, yeah. Well, maybe it is lilac. Maybe
I
John
just can't
said,
read it.
maybe John did some mention lilac or something. Said, oh, that'd be good. Oh, cedar, yeah, I wrote cedar.
The deers will enjoy it.
For some reason, John mentioned lilac, it's not right.
Might be the salt on the road. It seems to kill every cedar
Yeah.
hedge I've seen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, who knows? But a hedge is what's planned, okay?
So is there an existing driveway to the existing building there?
Yeah, that's pretty
Is it?
established. Right to the existing road to the left there, that wraps around to my shop.
And this existing, does that say
Commercial.
commercial building? That, can you tell us about what that is?
That's just my shop where I do maintenance on my equipment.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
store road sand for plow season.
We're passing around, I think this copy's enough for everybody, that the map that has.
You probably want a copy, huh?
Sure. Are there enough? Cause Gabrielle and I can share.
Oh, yeah, I didn't, I thought, did you guys get it yet?
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay, yeah, we can share.
Okay.
There's two here.
Should Shayna have one?
I'll look at pre-shared.
Yeah.
We're good.
I can look up there.
Okay.
Thank you, Harris, that's.
Any general sort of orientation questions to ask Kodiak or? Okay. So I think what we'll do then. Okay, so what we'll do now is go through each section in the zoning regulations. Starting with section 2.2. So, this is sort of a laborious process, I find, but it works. I think if we just go through them and then we can ask questions, or you could speak to the points that, so I said to Harris on the way over, I read all this a couple weeks ago and I haven't looked at it in a few days. So I'm just getting myself oriented. So, okay, so the first piece in here is, yeah,
Can I ask
Yeah.
a basic DRB question? So is it a conditional use because storage units are not specifically called out as an allowed use in rural residential?
Right.
Okay,
so table 2.2 talks about what are uses in rural residential. And John's assessment, which I think the closest, I agree with him, is light industry. But that's what sort of the parameters we'll be discussing this. So under 2.2, there's references to adequate water supply and wastewater systems. So I guess, Kodiak, are there any plans or need for water supply and wastewater systems?
There's no need. There is. Yeah, there's no need,
Yeah.
but there is.
You have it in your
I have
shop
a bath in the shop.
Yeah.
And, water.
for your current business purposes, okay?
But I mean, I don't think there's a need for us to take away.
I guess, or do you have plans with the new, what you're proposing to do? Will you be, having any additional use on your water supply?
Oh, I see, yeah, no.
Okay, so then, parking requirements come down under section 3.2 and 3.10 and 3.11, so we'll get to that. As well as, the erosion, I'm sorry, I'm being slow here. 14. Okay, then we'll get to stormwater management later under section 3. There's no conversion involved here. Okay, so that's just sort of section 2.2, very general. Anything in that I've missed or people want to speak to around section 2.2? Okay. So as we just referenced, table 2.2 is the rural residential district. There's conditional use, which requires DRB approval for what's listed. There's nothing, the closest category for self-storage units we've determined is light industry. Okay, now we go to section 3. The first section is section 3.6, which speaks to lot and yard requirements. So, I'm just gonna read this. Only one principal use or structure may be located on a single lot. There is one now, unless otherwise allowed as mixed use. Under section 3.16, as part of a historic barn or with approval of the DRB. Um. So I think this would take us to 3.16, which is mixed use. So section 316 says in designated zoning districts, more than one principal use may be allowed on a single lot. If all uses are permitted in the district, the uses shall be considered permitted. If any use is conditional in the district, which is in this situation, conditional use review under section 5.3 shall be required. So that's the section, I'm on page 57. So that's the section for conditional, section 5.3 is for conditional use in general, so we will get there. And then all mixed uses shall comply with the following provisions. So each of the proposed uses is allowed as a permitted or conditional use. So we're going to consider this proposal as a conditional use. The combined uses meet all applicable standards, including maximum overall density, frontage and setback requirements, and maximum lot coverage. So in this application, we would have to determine that the overall density, which we talked about a couple meetings ago, and the frontage and setback requirements are met, and that what's proposed doesn't exceed the maximum lot coverage. So, Cody, I think I know it's in your application, but could you just tell us the total lot, the acreage of your lot?
It says 8.1.
50.1. And then the proposed buildings are 10 by 100 and 20 by 100,
3,000 square feet
3,000,
of
okay.
buildings.
Thank you.
So is that for all, you're talking about frontage and density, is that for like any building or is that for sort of residential?
I was just about to tell you, I'm sort of new in this role, so as you can probably tell. My understanding, but others here may have better, the overall density would be like, I don't think applies here. It's like if you've got multiple structures and you can only have so many, so much development per size of your lot. And then,
So many square feet of structures. Percentage to the.
yeah, so like,
What is the percentage for this district?
yeah, we have to,
1%.
so I don't know how many square feet or even an acreage in an acre, but I think 3,000 square feet is significantly less than
Yeah,
20% of,
it'd be 1 acre will be 20%
yeah, okay.
or more than an acre.
52 something, I think, square feet in an
An
acre.
acre, okay. So we'll,
52,000 square feet.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
that sounds about right. Yeah, cause yeah,
Yeah, it's about 200 feet by 200 feet, it's a square acre.
okay,
About,
okay. So 3,000 square feet is less than 1 acre.
oh yeah,
And 1 acre is only a sixth of this lot. So we're well under the 20% requirement.
43,560.
I was gonna say, I think it's closer to 40,000, yeah,
43,560.
because, yeah.
square feet.
43, not 53.
But is my conclusion correct, Scott, that we're,
Yes, well, well on this.
well, okay, and then, so that's section 3.3.16, and that is subsection A. Then there's C. The mixed use meets all applicable general regulations under this article, meaning Article 3, including sign and parking requirements, which we will get to in a minute. So we'll go back to the next section, regulation 3, which is section 3.10. And that's parking, loading, and surface areas requirements. So, Kodiak, could you speak about parking, parking spaces, drainage, et cetera, to do with parking in this, in your proposal?
To do with the parking,
Yeah, I mean, if you could describe what, like,
how big the,
yeah, like what would be, are there gonna be designated parking areas, or like, how, what would parking, like when people come and store their possessions? What would be the
I don't know if
parking?
they wanna bring the sketch back up.
Okay.
But, generally, you know, I've built a lot of these for different owners, and, the space between two buildings is pretty important, be like 16 feet minimum.
Okay.
I'm gonna do 20, so. There's no parking per se, it's just room enough for people to unload and load up their stuff
Mhm.
every so often. I've, when I build these, I pay attention to the traffic, and it's usually someone will go to their storage units 1.5 times a month. So we're looking at 1 to 2 cars, probably 1 or 2 cars a day, is my estimate. So there's no long-term parking necessarily,
Yeah.
it's just adequate room for people to load and unload.
Okay,
And then, drainage, they just kind of pitched. The parking, or the road between the two buildings will kind of pitch to the middle and then to the east side, or to the north side of the property. And then the big one will pitch away from the building, so it's very sandy, drainable, soil there, I've never seen a puddle on that property. So as long as that, any water, you know, gets off the parking lot, there's no need for any storm drainage system or anything.
is this going to be gravel, or you're not gonna pave? Or?
No, gravel.
And-
Statement, like the blue statement.
Let's do that, yeah. And the plan is this area would sort of be crowned a bit and then water would drain.
Well,
to the north.
that area is almost opposite of a trap,
Okay,
so it's a little, about a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch of foot in the
Okay.
middle. And then
and then it
down to the north
drains
side, yeah.
to the north, okay, you said that.
And then the bigger circular area will drain away from the building towards the shop.
Okay, so this is part of the building, but this will drain towards
Correct.
the shop area.
I guess that parking area is so big because I have a little walkway there and a door. I'm gonna try and do like contactless contracts, and so people don't have to, they can do it with the app
Okay,
and go access through there. So there actually will be 2 or 3 parking spots next to that walkway.
in this area?
Yeah, there'll be adequate room for people to park there and fill out an application or whatever. they
Or
need to do.
come, if you were there, they could come into the.
Right.
talk to you.
Yeah.
So two or 3 parking spots in front of the current structure.
Correct.
And approximately the dimensions of that area?
It's about like that one section is about 30 by 100.
So in an area of 30 by 100, you would have 2 or 3 parking spots?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Or room for parking, not necessarily
Not like-
delineated.
right, but where people could park, but
I
not
don't believe it needs to be delineated,
so.
or
Okay. And you said earlier the parking would be, it's not permanent or long. It would just be for a limited time period while people are coming in to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean. Well, I'm hoping I'm hoping it's contactless,
Okay,
and my wife has more information about that, but.
yeah. We don't,
No, the longest it'd be parking there is when they're loading or unloading their
Okay.
stuff, periodically, but
yeah,
never more than an hour, I would think.
So for traffic flow between the two buildings, are people gonna have to back up from the far end to get out, or are you gonna have an extension of the gravel so they can go around to the circle?
Yeah, they will have to do a little 3-point turnaround to get,
Okay, so it's just gonna end at the end of the buildings,
just that end of, in between the building.
right?
They'll have plenty of room to turn around. I think,
16 feet.
well, they'll have plenty of room to turn around in the bigger parking area near the existing building, but in between the two buildings, yes,
They'll have
they'll
to
have to do a little turnaround and back out. I guess that's the 16 feet to make sure someone can. 3-point turnaround.
or 4 or 5.
Yeah, U-Haul, this U-Haul, they have to back out.
And then, what are your plans or what do you do now around snow removal in that parking? What would be your parking area?
I would plow it, but like, where do I plow it, or?
And,
I'll keep it plowed.
and,
It was just like, where's it gonna go? So between the two buildings, you just push it out the end.
Yeah, it's all going to the
So
store.
essentially, there's room for snow storage.
Oh, yeah.
That's just a question, to make sure there's room for snow storage.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, it's all going to the north, yeah,
okay,
for the most part.
so. I'm just gonna read this. It says for parking areas larger than 2 spaces, which may apply in that area. Stormwater runoff shall be directed into detention areas so as not to flow directly into waterways or onto traveled ways, whether private or public. So. Will there be, can you just speak to that, like that sentence? So,
Parking over 2 spaces?
yeah, so parking areas larger than 2 spaces, so that. Whoops, yeah, out in front of your building where you said could be 2 or 3, just
Yeah.
for our due diligence, you did mention the word 3. So, what, like how will stormwater run off in that area? So it doesn't flow directly into waterways or traveled ways.
It'll flow towards the building away from,
Towards the existing building.
yeah,
That's all just grass and.
grass, yeah, very thin layer of topsoil on
Okay.
300 feet of sand.
Drains pretty well.
Never seen a puddle there. But didn't you just say that, like, it's over 2 parking spots that needs to go into a detention area? Or is that just a loose term?
That's a good question. It says shall be directed into detention areas. So as not to flow directly into waterways.
Well, unless it's not falling into one of those.
Right.
Right.
I think since it's not close to a waterway, that retention does not apply.
Really, no impervious surfaces on the ground, it's all
Right.
grass and gravel.
Stay mat is called an impervious surface, isn't it?
Stem mat is impervious. So essentially, water hitting the parking area would not go into a roadway and damage a roadway, and it doesn't go into a waterway,
Yeah.
so in that case, it should be acceptable.
So I think what is important is that you tell us, and then when we talk, we decide, like, does this fit the regulation? So what
Yeah.
we're hearing, what I'm hearing from you, Kodiak, is that there's 2 or 3 spaces. Water would run off into a grassy area, which is very sandy and which you've never seen a puddle in.
Yes.
And that the water, when it flows from this area, would go towards a building, not towards Route 14.
It certainly won't go towards Route 14. The traveled area between the two buildings would head north.
From here would go that way.
Yeah, in
Okay.
between the two
It's
buildings.
2 buildings, okay,
And then the rainwater would head towards the existing shop on the bigger parking area, if that makes sense.
any, questions about this drainage issue? Is that, do you wanna ask? him?
I don't see it as, at all as an issue, there's no,
Yeah,
nothing that it would flow into and.
yeah,
Route 14 is probably close to about 3 feet in elevation from existing grade. Or whatever it's worth.
okay,
Existing grade at the
proposed.
new, yeah. There's quite a big shoulder there.
Okay. Gabrielle looked like, did you have a question? Were you just thinking, okay. Okay, moving right along. Shared parking, pedestrian walkways and or landscaping screening or lighting may be required. So. When I read this, you're not anticipating residents or guests, there's no employees, patrons. I think we can skip this section.
I think so.
Okay. The next parking lot landscaping doesn't apply because we're not talking about 5 or more spaces. Okay, loading and service areas, I think we probably talked about this, where proposed development requires the regular loading or unloading of goods or passengers. Sufficient on-site service and transit areas shall be provided. So loading and service areas shall be clearly marked and located so that parked vehicles will not block or obstruct site visibility at intersections onto or from internal roads or access. I think it.
I think that's, yeah. What's that?
I'll let you speak to that.
Well, I interpret it more for a business as
Yeah.
loading and
Yeah.
unloading, but
Yeah,
I'll just quiet.
yeah,
I've been to places like that and there's just a lot of movement, somebody comes in and waits a minute and somebody else,
it's probably
not really an issue.
obvious, like, this is where I unload, and this is my
Yeah.
unit, and this is where I. Okay, anything about that people want to discuss?
Well, just a quick thought,
Yeah.
just to put it in your, it's a small, as storage units go, it's very small.
Yeah,
It's a boutique
yeah,
storage facility.
I've never heard that expression,
made it
but I
up.
like that. Never heard of it.
But,
It's
so
hard.
it's, usually 100 units is considered a small, this is 30.
Yeah.
So.
So section 311 is about sign requirements, and John referenced that you plan. So maybe you could, if you just describe what your sign would be and the size and where it would be, etc.
He sort of brought that up and I said, well, let's put it in there.
Okay,
I sort of wanted to put a sign up for my business in the past. So I sort of wanted to do it. In case I wanted to put up a sign, that doesn't mean I have to put up a sign, correct?
Right,
Yeah, just, you know, I have a hypothetical, name for the storage, it'd be lakeside storage.
mhm,
There's just a nice wooden sign on
Yeah.
2 4x4 posts that's, you know, nicely painted.
yeah,
Small sign and it'd be quite a bit north of the buildings. And whatever the requirements are, if there's a 65 foot. Is there a 65 foot setback for a signage, do you think? That'd be quite a ways back, I don't know if it'd really be visible so well.
I don't see, I'll just go. Okay, I'll just read this quickly. No outdoor advertising signs except for the purpose of identifying approved on-premise use. Just understand, only one sign per business. So no sign shall exceed 16 square feet per face. So you're saying 4x4 would be that?
That's the biggest.
At the biggest. And then the height, so no sign, including supporting structures shall exceed 16 feet in height. Or the height of the nearest building on the premises, whichever is less. So I don't know how the storage units, what height would they be?
A 412 would be. Give me a second, sorry.
Sure, yeah, no, take your time.
I think like 11 feet.
Okay,
At the peak,
okay,
11 to 12 feet.
okay. So how tall would your sign, your proposed sign be?
Oh. Probably 6 feet.
Okay, great. Oh, here it is. No sign shall be placed within a public right of way or within 150 feet of any road intersection. Unless affixed to a building so that it does not extend beyond the building more than 3 feet. So 150 feet
From an intersection.
from an intersection.
But it doesn't say from center line.
No,
That might be a state. I don't know.
I think John mentioned that he had thought you would attach it to the building.
Oh, I mean. I kind of, I don't, yeah. I wanted it more like a camp sign, you know, like.
Yeah.
Like.
So essentially, it has to be outside of the right of way, and so in town, the right of way is 50 feet. For town roads, I'm not sure what state highways are, so it would have to be outside of the right of way of the state highway, which might be.
Maybe it's 65 feet from center.
No, it's, so 20, it's 25, so the right of way in Callis and Callis Town Roads is 50 feet. So from the center line, it's only 25 feet to the edge of the
okay.
right of way.
Okay.
So it may be more than 25 feet, center line
Try to look it up.
on state highways, I just don't know that.
Yeah,
You
so-
just have to, so your sign would have to be outside of that, right of way, so it could be.
It might be 65 feet.
No,
It's a state.
I don't think it's 65 feet, but it might be 30 feet or.
Why am I coming up with 65 feet? What is that?
No.
Why do I have that number 65 feet from central?
Well, that's the setback of the building.
Of
The
building.
building can't be more than, less than 65 feet from the center line of the highway.
Is it a US highway or a Vermont route?
That's a Vermont highway.
the other,
So 65 feet central line is nothing to do with Callis, correct? That's a state.
No, that's, so if you look at the rural residential, definitions, it says on Route 14 north of East Callis. It's 65
Okay.
feet.
Okay,
That's setback.
Yeah.
In other parts of town, on town roads, it's less.
okay. Well,
the other thing I'm gonna interrupt you, Zoe, is a zoning. John is the zoning administrator, can grant a permit for a sign.
okay,
So at this point, you may or may not have plans for a sign. I mean, this doesn't have to necessarily be part of this application, is what I'm thinking.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I do not know where I'm gonna put it.
Okay,
So maybe when the time comes, I can put one up. If if that doesn't interfere with
Right.
anything, if we take it off or whatever. I just, to be honest, I do not know where I
Right, right.
want it
Yeah.
aesthetically.
Right. No, I appreciate
Yeah,
that. I mean, tip often what permits are, they have conditions, so it
Yeah.
could be like, you know, you may issue put up a sign as long as you obtain a permit from the town. And then the zoning administrator would make sure that when you know what your plan for the sign is, that it meets these criteria, as
Okay.
I understand, is that?
It's so, once again, it's not conditional use, you just.
Yeah.
Free,
We probably
311 or
go,
whatever,
yeah,
whatever.
it's section, it's page 49 of the regs, if you.
and there is just an online form from V-Trans that just says request for right-of-way plans and width information. So it might just be the case that it's not as easy as looking up. You know, I don't know if there's only one right-of-way for all of Route 14, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So, so it
Okay.
kind of sounds like you might do
I got
your
it.
own little research.
The state right of way is 25 feet from the center line, so it's the same as the town.
Okay.
And you only need a right of way permit from the state if you wanna put something within that 25 feet closer to the road.
So
You have
25
to go to
feet.
the State, so if you measure from the center line of the highway to 25 feet, you're free to do whatever you want in there.
It's not 12 and a half feet?
Unless it's not built,
It's 50 feet altogether, Gabrielle.
Okay,
because the building is.
The building's 65, so you have from 25 to 65, that whole area to put your sign.
Yeah.
But if you want it closer to the highway so traffic sees it, then you have to go to the state and get a permit
No, I,
from the state.
25 is.
Okay.
Perfect, 65,
Well,
out there, but.
and so most travel lanes are 12 feet, so essentially, it's 10 feet off the edge of the pavement,
Yeah,
roughly, that you have to be set back.
yeah. I'm surprised this, the highways. Don't wanna widen that a bit.
So what I'm hearing is your plans for a sign are not set at this point,
Yes.
whether you even have a sign, probably, but not definitive at this
Yeah.
point. Okay. Think we talked about signs. Section 312 is protection of natural resources.
so a question about that.
Yes.
So John came in specifically to say, I want you to know there's a sign on the application. So do we need to let him know that there is not a sign on the, like, did that just officially take the sign off the application? So we're not like, or are we just ignoring, like, what is the official name,
Well-
which we're not worrying about a sign?
It's not on the application now.
It's not on it now.
Okay,
Well, he came in to
No,
say.
he did it, he said he had updated it to add the sign, so the sign is actually part of the application we're
Well,
considering.
but Kodiak doesn't, at this point, there's a possible sign included in the application, but the details of the sign are not yet.
Well, as long as I keep it under, as long as I do.
What's here? Less than,
but
not,
but
you
the
know,
question, is if we're not actively approving it, does he have to? Does he have to go back to John to permit it?
well, here's my thinking, is when we make a decision, assuming that the board says there's an approval, it can say, you know, a sign, I don't know how we write this stuff, but a sign may be, put up, providing it meets the requirements of section 3.11, and we could even say, and a permit is obtained from the zoning administrator. Because at this point, it doesn't sound like Kodiak's planning to build a sign the day he builds the units.
But if I have, but, okay, as long as you said it's 311 or what it is?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if I abide by that, then I can put a sign up, just leave it in the application and I'll put a sign up within those parameters.
Yeah.
And
That makes
is
sense.
there a time frame on that part of the application? So,
3 years.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
you know, honestly, I'm hoping, I talked to a lot of the lakeside community and I'm hoping that I don't need a number and I'm hoping most of them are sort of a word of mouth thing.
Yeah,
I heard there's a need for, and from what I've talked to people there. One guy wants 3 units, so
Yeah.
you know.
you
So
might not need it,
if they're, I think they'll be filled
yeah,
with local people and whether, but I would like to just keep it in the
You
application
would like-
and.
like to have the opportunity to put a sign up should you determine you need to.
Yeah, and as long as I do
Yeah, 3.1, 3.1,
parameters,
yeah.
I think we can leave it in if that's fine.
yeah. That makes sense to folks.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I think I probably spent too much time on that, we could have probably cut to the chase more quickly. All right, so section 312 is protection of natural resources, which is a few pages here. So all development, and I'm not reading all of the wording here, shall be located and configured to avoid undue adverse impact to sensitive or significant natural features. And those include wetlands, flood hazard areas, slopes greater than 15%, critical wildlife habitat areas, surface waters, associated buffer areas, river corridors, and other resources identified in the second plan. So, Kodiak, could you speak to this lot, what natural resources exist? So.
Well, my main concern is just the established wetlands, with those particular wetlands, I only need to be 50-foot buffer. But I went 100 feet because I just wanted to take that extra step and make sure that I was well away from it. So for that particular spot, it only requires a 50-foot buffer. And, am I repeating myself? I think I am. But, yeah, that was my biggest concern, well away from that, so, I don't know anything else that we done about, it's all just a flat lawn out front there. With, one big pine, well, a couple big pine trees. They need to come down.
I'm just curious, is your lot, is it a 3-acre lot? Would it be considered a 3-acre lot? Do you have 3 acres of impervious? What?
Application says 6.1.
I know, but the 3-acre lot rule is a state rule about impervious surfaces. So I'm just wondering,
It's under, 600 square meters, I think, is the impervious area. And the additional impervious is under 20,000 square feet.
And this is the map that captures the wetland.
Yeah, it does, it corresponds to, Kodiak's map. Very well, you know, I haven't been on the site, but,
Yeah.
just the, wetlands that are mapped by the state correspond to, you know, where it's covered, reaches about 100 feet, and, yeah. And there are no significant natural communities or rare endangered species or anything like that on the state lands.
I think I know the answer to these questions, but I just have to ask you. So there's no flood hazard areas on your lot?
No, I
Are
was a
there-
little nervous during that last storm.
Yeah,
I couldn't get down to Woodbury Lake when I finally did, I was like, oh my god.
yeah.
But well, what's going on? And I shut up and it was absolutely
That's good.
perfect even so.
Yeah.
But,
And any slopes greater than 15%
not on that property, no.
and any critical.
Well, maybe on that far corner, actually. It
up in-
just starts hitting the hill. The back end, yeah.
Yeah, Good. But the proposed development will not affect that section where
Yeah.
it may be that steep. And are there any critical wildlife habitat areas on this, on your land here? that you know of?
Well, wouldn't that be defined by the state or something? I mean, I don't,
Yeah, it just says the applicant.
just not aware of, yeah. I saw a bald eagle there
Yeah,
last couple of weeks.
yeah,
There's
yes, somewhere in there.
a deer died dead
Oh, yeah,
right by that entrance.
yeah.
Frozen, the bald eagle was there for like a
Yeah.
week, it's kinda cool.
Crazy.
But no,
No.
I haven't,
Okay. No surface water,
no,
no.
except for the wetland.
Okay. No, just important to hear from the applicant that none of these
Oh, okay.
features. Okay. Bye. Oh. Okay. And there's, no farmland within your lot. No historic or cultural resources, no. 3.14 surface water protection. To maintain water quality, protect wildlife habitat, protect channel and floodplain stability, and prevent soil erosion and pollution associated with surface runoff. The following shall apply to all new development, including additions to existing structures. So this is where your point about the buffers, I think that's the section, this is the section. So, subsection A3 talks about class 1 and class 2 wetlands. There is a wetland on this lot, I don't know what class it is.
It's a class 2.
Class 2, okay.
Is that a 50-foot buffer?
Yes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so class 1 is 100 feet.
And
class,
I'm not sure.
class
There are
1
very
is-
few class 1 wetlands in Vermont.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the number of many,
mm,
yeah.
So I thought it was standing on water, that's a class 1, but I guess not.
It's more than just that.
It's
Yeah.
wild, it's
Yeah, there's a,
wild,
I know there's some spots on Lake Champlain, but
okay.
yeah.
That's interesting. So according to these regulations, class 1 and class 2, so even though maybe, I don't know if we have any class 1 and class. It's, as you said, Kodiak, at least 50 feet in width. Measured from the wetland boundary, and you have told us that it's 100 feet.
Correct.
So we don't need to talk about buffer requirements exemptions because this is outside that 50-foot buffer, 100-foot buffer. Anything, yeah, anything more about section 3.14 that we should discuss? Okay. Section 315, erosion and sediment control and stormwater management. So we did speak a bit about this before. The purpose here is prevent, minimize, control erosion and sedimentation, runoff, and so forth, as people can see there. So maybe I'll just ask you some questions. So, will this development create 400 square feet or more of disturbed area? I guess so, because you're
Well, the
talking about the
construction.
the development, so the development is 3,000 square
Yeah.
feet, so.
Well, plus the roads.
Yeah. So that means the erosion and sediment control standards in subsection D1 shall apply. So we'll go there. This is sort of like a roadmap. Now you have to go here to there. So D1, development shall be designed to keep soils from reaching surface waters and to the greatest extent practicable shall provide for the preservation of natural drainage systems, retention of native topsoil, and stabilization of steep slopes. So, I know we've talked about this already, Kobiak, but would you mind just speaking to those points about how you will preserve natural drainage systems, retain native topsoil, stabilize, there are no steep slopes there, so that's, let's speak to that.
Yeah, no steep slopes, the footprint that I gave you is an accurate footprint of what's gonna happen, so I'm gonna very neatly take out just that 2 inches of topsoil
Uh-huh.
stockpile.
Mhm.
Use it to feather all the edges when I'm done, so it'll stay right there, and there's no concern for erosion on that particular project, cause it's so flat. And then, the grass, whatever's there now, outside of that, pretty much exact footprint is gonna be the way it was before the project, if that makes any sense. No blade will be unharmed outside of that footprint, well, I will go outside. But essentially,
Construction,
that grade
but
will
you-
stay the same
Okay,
outside of that footprint, more or less.
okay. Any questions, for Kodiak about that? So then,
So I'm just curious, the brown area on the, east portion of the lot,
Yeah,
what is that?
it's just. It's basically just a back portion, there's stones and. Bumpy soils and stuff, it's just, it used to be an old gravel pit, so, it's just not graded land.
That's how you inherited the,
Yes. Except for right now, I guess kind of in the middle. The northern section. There's material stockpiled there, gravel from the Woodbury culvert job that SD Ireland did. But that will be removed, so we return back to whatever it was.
Kodiak, are these buildings or is that a truck?
That's a trailer, they're all trailer,
Trailer.
one's enclosed
Yeah.
trailer.
And is this a building?
Yeah, that's a trailer, a house trailer.
Trailer. Okay. And are people living in that?
Yes.
So under the erosion sediment control standards D1, there's also D1 little 2, or I don't know, little I, whatever that is. To prevent and mitigate erosion and sedimentation, all applicable construction activities shall be consistent with the practices as set forth in the most recent low-risk site handbook for erosion prevention and sediment control issued by the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation. Are you familiar with that handbook for your work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on any project that I've done personally. The engineer will call out specifically what you have to do.
Yeah,
But there's nothing here that I think is gonna,
Okay.
I don't think I'm gonna have to put up silt fence or anything. but
Yeah.
it's nothing. The topsoil, you're supposed to seed and cover with hay if it's gonna be there over 6 months or a year, but
okay,
that's gonna be put back
okay.
relatively quickly. I think it's a year.
sorry, what's gonna be put back?
Just the topsoil I take off from the footprint. I'll use it to kind of feather up against the road and buildings.
So in the regulations, it does, sort of note practices that are in that
Okay.
handbook. So maybe I'll just, to do our due diligence, read these and then you can speak to any that you think might or might not apply
Okay.
in your proposal. So Demarcate limits of disturbance. I'm just gonna read them and you can just name
Okay.
it, like say stop, or whatever. Pollution prevention. Limit concurrent earth disturbance, which I think is what you've been describing.
Don't want to do more than I have to.
Yeah. Site stabilization.
There's no grade.
Okay. Stabilize construction access. Maybe that's like if you had to build an access road.
An access.
Yeah.
Which
Divert,
I would,
you will build a separate
Yeah.
road to access.
yeah.
Is
But
that,
it'll be permanent, it'll be whatever's in the drawing there. It'll be permanent, so I'm not gonna take it back up, so
it's,
you know, that's the road.
so you will be,
Is that this?
That's where it roughly will be.
so,
Oh, that's the topo line.
It'll come off of that there,
so this,
like right here. That's the road, this is the road you're looking at, so it's.
so that, so there is like construction of a new road or part of like off of your existing.
Yeah, but it's permanent, it's not we're not building an access road, I mean,
Right, it's not
Applying
actually
to-
construction, it's part of your actual development.
yes.
Gotcha. Perimeter controls, storm inlet production, water bars,
Don't see a need for any of that.
slow down, channelize runoff, slope stabilization, winter construction requirements. Would you be building this in the winter?
No,
No, okay. Dewatering activities, I don't know what those are.
just if you're digging a deep hole and it fills with water, you have to pump the water out.
Yeah,
No,
rudimentous,
no holes.
right? Permanent controls. Inspection, maintenance, and discharge reporting.
I think that's for any stormwater issues, maintenance to any of those above mentioned items.
Okay. So I will say in previous, decisions the board has made, has asked applicants to do construction according to certain guidelines, so that has happened in the past, FYI. Okay, how are we doing here? Anything more about storm response up? We're not doing this, okay, okay. Anything about this section that we need to talk about or ask Kodiak questions, erosion and sediment control, could we cover that? Okay. Okay, section 316 we've already referenced, that's the mixed use, which took us back to the sign and parking requirements, which we've discussed. So I think that takes care of section 3, unless anybody else on the board to note anything. Okay, so article 4 is where the home industry, light industry comes in. And that's section 4.3 on page 59 of the zoning regulations. So again, Kodiak, I'll just read what's in here and you can speak to it. And some of it is obvious from what you've already told us, but just, so light industry may be allowed as a conditional use subject to conditional use review and the following provisions. So these are the following provisions. Use shall not have more than 30 employees on site per shift. You don't have no employees.
No.
Shall not occupy more than 15,000 square feet. You're telling us it's 3,000 square feet. All right, so here, the industry shall not generate.
Can I just ask a
Yes.
question? Wouldn't it be cumulative? With all the other, which still wouldn't equal 15,000, but,
No, it's conditional use for this project,
okay,
I believe.
No, I think that's.
that makes sense.
Correct.
Yeah,
You think?
That's the application we're considering.
Yeah,
Right, I mean, there's a lot coverage that takes into account all the other buildings.
Right.
and
which we talked.
other than that,
Yeah. Okay. The industry shall not generate undue noise, smoke, vibration, dust, glare, odors, electrical interference, heat, or other nuisance that is detectable or at or beyond the boundaries of the property.
Don't believe any of those now.
Okay. So, noise, I guess that's the only, like, I could see people,
During construction,
yeah,
it wouldn't even be that
yeah,
noise, and then the day to day.
yeah, just whatever noise
Yeah,
people
I
make
mean-
unloading,
It's probably one of the quieter uses I
Yeah.
can think of.
okay. Any questions around that from the group? Okay. Adequate parking, we've already discussed that. Adequate landscaping and screening shall be provided as needed for purposes of buffering, safety and security, and to minimize any adverse aesthetic impacts to neighboring and facing properties. So you told us where you plan to put in, a hedge. There aren't really neighboring and facing properties, are they, but within sight?
Not residential,
Not
no,
residential,
at the moment.
other than the trailer is, but that's
On my
on your
property, yeah.
property. Yeah,
And there's a big fan pit next door.
yeah,
No one's gonna build, well, right now.
there's no one there
And
now.
no one will be there for a very long time. I know Donovan isn't gonna sell his land.
Okay. We talked already about water supply and wastewater. Office and storage space and cafeteria, recreation and or daycare facilities for employee use. You're not gonna have any employees. As I'm just confirming what my understanding is, no
Yeah.
employees. And on sale retail sales, but you don't plan to have any retail sales. Okay. So any questions regarding the light industry section for Kodiak? Okay. All right, now we get to the whole conditional use section of the regulations, which is in Article 5. And the section 5.2 is what is, this, I find this, I feel like we should talk about this first, because it's the actual application. Sort of, not very sequential, but. So we have an application. With the related details on it. A general location map shows the public highway. Joining properties and uses and the drainage patterns. Did you say our maps show drainage patterns?
It doesn't really, but.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll just note that. We don't really know about drainage patterns based on our current mapping that are available.
Based on the mapping, nothing discussed.
Just, yeah. Okay. And the map is drawn to scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has the north arrow and these various features on here. Let's just make sure we have,
So
so,
that thing in the corner is the north arrow?
Yeah,
Oh,
isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
yeah, I couldn't tell what it was though, I just thought it was a beautiful something.
I believe that's magnetic.
That, I don't know.
I believe it is, because. Yeah.
I traced it. There, I sent it.
Property lines are on here. The site features, we have this map, we also have this map. That shows, the wetland, tree lines. There are no historic sites, no river corridor or flood hazard overlay. And mapped wetlands. And these are all, if applicable. The location of existing and proposed structures are on here. There, and roads and driveways, parking, we talked about that, it's on the map, I mean, it's not written, but we understand where they are. Existing and proposed site grading and stormwater management and erosion control practices. Projects with 1 acre or less of disturbed area must comply with section 3.15, but I think we did that, and we went through 3.15. Okay. And this landscaping and screening. So anybody on the board feel like we're missing anything on the application? Feel like that's complete? What's the other map that,
The hand-drawn map?
yeah, this one.
I mean, that doesn't actually have any of this stuff.
Well, it has, and this is where applicable, so it has, I guess. We could consider this as part of the application. Let's have the property location, right? Property lines.
When you say it doesn't have any of that, what specifically are you referring to?
Well,
Because of all the erosion control, storm. Compliance things aren't applicable to this, in my opinion. So. There doesn't need to, I don't need to have a plan for that, is that?
No, so we'll just go back, so that on the map. There's, and I'm not looking at it closely enough, but there's the arrow. And we can decide to waive some of these requirements, so there's this scale, there's a scale on here.
that's the general location map, though, or is that the plan drawn to scale?
Yeah, and that's just a piece of this larger map, which has the scale.
Okay, thank you, Harris.
But I don't know if we have a better printout than this.
Oh, there you go, yeah, there's the plan.
Yeah.
So there's who prepared it, got your name and the date, and that's the address, Route 14. These
Proper,
are the
that's the property.
line.
Yeah.
And has the scale here. Okay. Where's the wetland?
It's on there, sent dash or whatever.
WL dash.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for being, where? This indicates wetland, is that right? These are those little plants. Symbol? Okay, so 3A and B are required and they're there. And then existing site features when applicable, and the one that is most critical here is the wetland, which is on the map. The other features, tree lines, topography, streams and surface waters, historic sites, his critical habitat areas and the overlay districts and source protection areas, I don't think are applicable. So we don't need them on the map. Okay, and on here, the other where applicable items are existing and proposed structures, which are on here, buildings and proposed, roads and driveways, and parking, this is the new road. There's the parking in front of the building. And then the F, which is site grading, stormwater management, and erosion control practices. They're not necessarily marked on the map, but Kodiak has described them to us, so I think that satisfies our need. Okay. And the proposed landscaping is on the map, the cedar hedge. Possibly a lilac hedge. Yeah. So, continuing with 5.3. Okay, so, this is all like the process of our review. And so D is the required standards. Okay, so conditional use approval shall be granted by the DRB upon finding that proposed development is consistent with the general standards set forth in regulations. And will not have an undue adverse impact upon the following. So there's these different categories for the so if you could tell us whether there will be, what sort of impact there would be, your proposed development would have, if any impact on these things. Existing or planned community facilities and services. So do you think there's any impact on community facilities and services?
A positive impact, people, so especially in the lake community, don't have to drive farther,
Mhm.
and spread their stuff, yeah.
Okay.
Serves the lake community a little better, but
Yeah.
not in a negative way, that I
Yeah.
perceive.
Okay. Okay, the character of the neighborhood or area. Anything you wanna speak to about the character of the neighborhood?
Well, it has a little more of a light industrial feel in that area. I will say that I really want this to not be like a typical storage unit. I want it to look nice. It's where I go every single morning.
Yeah.
And it's the thing of pride to me is gonna be. I want it to look nice,
Yeah. Okay.
so,
Do you have any pictures of what you would call a nice looking one?
but I don't have any pictures. The last ones that I built are located in Montpelier, next to the laser wash. Laser car wash.
There's a lot of storage units around there, so I don't
There's
know.
not a lot of laser car washes, there's only one in Montpelier.
Is it the one that's right next to it that used to be,
Yeah.
that said that growler
Yeah, right in front of it, yeah.
right there?
So those two units, we did,
Your stove works, that.
It's that intersection, it's just right
Well.
past the car wash.
they're new right on Route 2.
Yeah.
Do you not know them?
I know a bunch of storage units right there. I can't
Well,
picture
they're
the new ones.
Yeah, the new ones is.
Okay.
Those are the options are nice, but if you don't. Remember, notice any difference between them, I guess, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah,
But those are nice in my opinion, so.
yeah. So like you said, it has a light industrial feel. Is there a light industrial all like on the either side or nearby?
Well, the farm taking out the 1,000,000 yards of sand is the big thing, and then,
Can you?
Thompson's, lumber processing next door, which they moved. last year. So I guess that's no longer, just those two things.
Uh-huh.
The town garage is just down the road. It's a,
Yeah,
I think it's a good thing to have someplace in Callis where there can be, where light industry is, accepted and we don't have a district for light industry.
That's actually what I was asking. I was wondering if we have, if there's zoning,
Yeah.
you know, that's on Route 18, that is.
We don't, and maybe we need an area for light industry, and this would be a good candidate if we did that. But it doesn't all have to be, big white collaborative buildings and steeples.
It isn't. My house isn't anyway.
Uh,
I mean, it's certainly. Generally speaking, I would think that storage units are not pretty. I will say that, but I do take pride in my property and I want. Again, you specifically haven't seen those new buildings, then there's not much more that I can say, but they're nicer to look at. They're not, the cheapest things that you can put up, so. There's definitely nice.
do you wanna just really briefly describe like what they're made of or what, I mean, that sort of detail might help the board.
Yeah, honestly, the biggest design they did was, backwards on the top gable, delineated by backwards on the bottom.
Mhm.
So honestly, that's probably one of the biggest
Yeah,
details that they use. They use, T11 on the roads, T111 on the roadside, which is vertical clapboards.
yeah,
But. The biggest thing is wood, not metal, I guess, is
Yeah.
is the wood construction, not metal. So that's the takeaway, I guess.
Yeah. okay. Wouldn't sound like that. And Kodiak, apart from the trailer on your lot, are there residential homes, let's say within half a mile of either side of your property on Route 14?
The closest home is I believe is to the north on the right,
Yeah,
with all the
all the stuff,
concrete walls that look like stones. I
yeah,
forget his name.
yeah,
I used to run some program, food program, WIC. He
okay.
used to run WIC.
Just where it starts being developed.
That's just
across from
just
the-
in Woodbury, yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, so in Callis, going south.
quite a ways, eh? Almost.
Yeah. It is, I think Chafee is the first one down on the left there.
Okay.
But he's probably within a half mile, I think.
Okay.
I'm really sure.
So, so the conditions that the board could impose, deeming appropriate, would be to ensure the proposed development is compatible with the character of the area or neighborhood as determined from zoning district purpose statements, this is the rural residential area. The Callis Town Plan and testimony from affected property owners. We haven't heard any testimony from other than Kodiak, who's the property owner applicant.
I guess 5-3.
Yes, yeah, top of page 69. It's section 5.3. Capital D and parens, and then number 2. Okay, so the next section is traffic. So the DRB shall consider the potential impact of traffic generated by the proposed development on the capacity, safety, efficiency, and maintenance of roads. And you testified earlier, Cody, that you expect like 1 to 2 cars a day on average, maybe.
I would say less than 2 on average
Less than 2 on average, okay.
per day.
And There might be cars, or it could be a U-Haul trailer. A variety of ways people bring their stuff to store.
Yeah, it's actually generally mostly cars,
Okay.
getting one item or two.
Mhm.
And I would think that the U-Haul would come once a year.
Mm.
Typically, less than once a year
Okay.
per year.
I don't actually have a storage unit. Do people tend to like, is it a yearly lease typically that people?
It's month to month,
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
I would think the average would be around a year.
yeah,
I would think the average of these would be significantly more, just
Yeah.
from what I'm trying to do
Okay.
in the area, the people who want to store there.
yeah,
Hopefully will be primarily lake residents
okay, okay,
who typically stay in their, will own their camps.
Right.
own their-
yeah. Okay. Any questions about traffic? Okay. Okay, bylaws and ordinances. We shall determine whether the proposed development conforms to other municipal bylaws and ordinances in effect. Any road and on-site water, wastewater ordinances. I don't know, anyone have any ordinance that comes to mind that we should be considering?
Just the signs,
Signs?
but that's, you know, that would be a different thing.
Okay.
Yeah, the sign's not an ordinance, it's a regulation.
Regulation.
It's a what?
A regulation. It's not an ordinance.
I have to say, I don't even know what our town ordinances are. I know there's one around fireworks and dogs.
Cars or cars.
It's about curb cuts and right of way,
Yeah,
building stuff in the right of way.
yeah. Okay. That's something I should just educate myself on in future, on these things. Okay, then the final consideration is the utilization of renewable energy resources. The board will consider whether the proposed development will interfere with the sustainable use of renewable energy resources by either diminishing their future availability or by interfering with neighboring property owners' access to such resources, for example, for solar or wind power. So Kodiak, do you want to speak to any?
It wouldn't interfere with any other property. Matter, it would only. If it wasn't wired and electric, Hardwick Electric. You can put panels on these buildings,
Okay.
but I have no plans for that.
And I know it's in your application, but where you told us the height of the structure is 11 feet approximately.
Of the bigger unit, the 20 by 100 would be. Yeah, bear with me here, I'm sorry, 412 pitch, so halfway in between that pitch would be 4 feet higher than 7 feet, so 112 feet.
Okay. Okay.
I hope I didn't. I think so.
Okay. Okay.
Will you have security lighting there for people who come in at night?
There will be under the eaves, yeah,
Okay.
just some night lights, motion lights,
Right, so they'll only come on when somebody comes in.
yeah. Opposite of the roadside.
Yep.
So it will, you know,
So-
you won't see them from.
It won't be shining all night long, it'll only be when someone comes
Yes,
in.
correct.
Great.
We're trying to like anticipate oddball questions people might ask, so. Let's say there was a problem at one of the. Units, like a disturbance or something,
Late night
late night,
or something.
somebody's doing something, some yahoo's doing something. There'd be light there, for people to see. It
Yeah.
would come on. Um. But any noise, so the nearest people who would hear would be the people in the trailer or down the road.
Yeah,
So.
Is there gonna be a dumpsters?
no.
Huh.
It's funny you asked, I had that thought today.
Well, it's probably the type of thing, like, people would just throw all their stuff out and then you'd be on the hook for getting rid of it.
Well, there is at some of my clients, they do have dumpsters there, and I asked them, is that or not? And people were always coming in, but some people I just see throwing some big stuff in there, so.
Yeah.
It's good, I can't do that because people would seek it out. I would do that for the customers, you know. That are staying there, but
You don't want someone.
it would be coming like, oh, hey. Throw some tires and. Excuse me. But it's funny you asked, I was just thinking that today, cause I had some trash at my shop, and like, there's a dumpster and have people use it now. A bad offer.
Any final things you wanna tell us, Claudia, about this?
Well, actually, so the vegetation, is this adequate screening, question mark? To the people in the room?
The hedge,
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're doing it,
sorry, what?
if you're like that cedar.
you know, well, I'm certainly open to. On a personal level, or whatever it is, if, you know, I'll look at, well, you said the salt, the cedar doesn't
I
make
don't know.
salt, you know, I'm.
That's just what I've observed. when
I only
people-
said cedar because there's a cedar hedge down the road, I think,
Yeah.
and
They're nice and thick,
I think, what?
they're nice and thick.
Yeah, they seem like they had a problem at one point, then they trimmed them and it looks nice, so.
Mm.
Certainly open to it, to any suggestions. I would counter by saying, do you think it's necessarily, you know, cause on my application, I have to do it, is that correct?
If, when the DRB issues a decision, if it includes in there, you know, build screening or a hedge as on your application, then that would be the expectation. Or the board could write, you know, this hedge should be, I don't even know idea what I can't remember the dimensions, twice as big, or, you know, like, then it could, I'm not saying that, I'm just throwing that out as an example.
Okay.
You know, like that, those are the sorts of
Yeah.
things that sometimes the decisions are more specific than might be in an application.
Okay.
But
Well, I just wonder if there's a sort of a best practices thing for screening, like, should this, like, if you're screening something, do you only do it to the dimensions of the thing you're trying to hide? Do you give 20 extra feet on either side? Like, there's probably criteria for that are, you know, whatever architect criteria or something like that. And, so, and John did call it out, just to say, like, it's up to us to decide whether it's adequate. Talking about the hedge, I can't remember where that was, that might have just been in that little message from the email.
I don't know whether in the zoning regulations, there's any specific description of screening. I think it's
But,
probably more
so-
consistent.
The DRB has discretionary ability to set the standard for the screening, whether or not it's acceptable to us. It's
Yeah.
discretionary.
And
So I don't know whether it's acceptable or not, but I just remembered that it says, he said, to the extent to which it is satisfactory is up to the DRB.
And I think that would be.
Well, I
what
think,
people agree or not, like, would relate to the character of the neighborhood or area. I think those are like, that would probably be the criteria used.
yeah, I think, you know, established height and also length of the screening would be the conditions that we were to impose.
But
You know, we'll just decide on ourselves what standard we need to look at.
Our quick design, my personal opinion, like some well-placed lilacs that are not in a row, 300 feet long, will look better than a 8 foot tall solid cedar, 300 foot long hedge. Just for the sake of saying I can barely see that building, so you know, nice plantings. Maybe even staggered and, you know, so it may look better than a hedge, you know, and I think it would.
And again, we may not say what the planting is, but we might have to say it should stand 8 feet tall when it's grown and it should be 100 feet long or whatever. That would be the conditions.
Yeah.
And then you can choose whatever fits into that
Okay.
definition.
I think, I don't think we should be telling anybody whether they plant cedar or lilac or.
Yeah.
You know. I'm sure we'd all can give you our personal opinions, but that would really be your decision.
Oh.
Alright, questions? Anybody? Okay. So I think at this point, unless anybody has anything more to offer, we would, well, let me ask the board this. We have two options. We can continue if people feel we need more information. Or we can, close the public hearing, in which case then we have 45 days to make, to deliberate and make a decision. So, do people feel like they have enough information to have a deliberation?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay, so then we'll adjourn. I think that's the right term, we're gonna close. And the public hearing. And then we will, write a decision within 45 days,
Okay.
get it to you. Hopefully sooner than 45 days, but we do have up to 45 days. And then we deliberate as a private group, and come up with. And if you are interested and you go on the Calais website, you can see other DRB decisions and, you know, they're sort of
Length.
technical and the length.
Of deliberation, or
Oh,
is that, I thought that's what you made me.
oh, I see. No, we, depending on the appetite of the group, we may stay here for some time and talk, or if we feel like it's gonna take too long, we would set a private meeting to talk. But we've taken all the information we can from you, Kodiak, so like, bottom line, we'll let you know in 45
Yeah, and if
minutes.
you have more questions for me, you can actually ask them, or do you have to do it again, or how does that work? Cause is that supposed to be a public,
Yeah.
right? Or hopefully you have all the questions.
Hopefully,
I
we have-
would think the author is allowed to clarify, I think.
it's a good question, I'm not sure. Anybody? It's something I should know. So,
On another note, if there's any questions, please ask me.
Okay.
Or suggestions or anything.
yeah, okay. I think we have what we need, so, but I'm glad you asked that question, because it's something I should know for future reference. In the past, I think what my experience has been on this board is if we're not sure, we've continued the hearing to another date, and then it's like, oh, we got that one piece of information, and then it's like what you saw earlier this evening, pretty straightforward.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, but I think in this situation, you've given us all the information we need, and so it's up to us to do our work now.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, I didn't
Yeah.
realize it takes so long.
No.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, well, thank you for your patience with us. Yeah,
It was a good application, I think.
yeah,
Oh.
I like the north symbol. What can I say?
That's the only good for you.
Goes by Northwest.
Yeah, exactly, yeah,
Well, thanks again.
Okay.
Thanks, Cody.
thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, we've got your email and But I think we're set.
Okay, well, thanks again, you guys.
Okay,
Nice to
thank
meet
you.
you all.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Too.
Okay. So we have two. It's 8 o'clock. Yes,
Just real quick, so with the select board, when they go into deliberations, I
Yes.
leave.
yes.
So I just wanted to clarify, do you want me to just send you this draft notes and then you can add?
Yes,
the
that would be great,
deliberation
Shannon.
Or whatever. it
Yeah,
is.
we would use whoever writes the decision,
Mhm.
because we've taken turns, draws heavily on your notes. So
Okay,
even if all your notes don't end up verbatim in the minutes,
Mhm.
like those notes could be really helpful for whoever's writing
sure,
the decision. So yes,
okay, but do you want me to stay here or?
I don't
I'm
know.
good? Okay,
We're all,
okay.
we're all set. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify. just
Yeah,
in
I'm
case.
sorry,
Yeah.
being really, I don't wanna say please leave, but.
Yeah.
Please.
In, you're out.
Thank you, Shanna.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion to go into deliberative session?
Yes, we do. So,
Okay.
we're gonna-
I make a motion, we go into deliberative session.
all those in favor? Okay, so we're now in the deliberative session. And we had two decisions. And,
Well, do you think I should stop the recording at this point?
yes, thank you very much. Good catch, Scott. And then we